Hello and welcome to Bonktable. I'm Mass, and this is going to be, I guess, part 4 of the 100k guide I've been recording. This has also a visual element, so if you want to watch it on YouTube, it'll be available there for you. This is going to go over 100k list building, and I'm going to be talking about and intertwining all the things I've talked about from the previous 3 episodes together now. So we've talked about horses, we've talked about shooting and magic, and we've talked about infantry. So now we're going to start looking at lists. Some of these lists are going to be more specific to those 3 archetypes, the pike, the crossbow, and horse, as the holy trinity of 100k. And then as we progress through these various lists and talk about them and come up with ideas and concepts and how things combo together well and how things support each other in a more list-focused format, you'll see them start diverting towards more combined arms as we get through them. 100k's, a lot of its power comes from its list building because of how adaptable it is. Like double warlord, so as an army rule, having dynastic alliance where you can pick 2 warlords is super powerful. Getting 2 supremacies is really good because a lot of 100k supremacy abilities are passive, so they just are happening. So as I mentioned before, like the Imperial Officer, his is always on. Even if he's dead or not on the table, it's on. So you're always getting Vanguard move onto infantry. Mounted Noble Lords getting +1 impact and reroll 6s on the impact attacks for Household Knights. He just has to be on the table. You never have to declare that this is the Supremacy turn when you get to the end of the Supremacy phase. The only 2 that I think are active off the top of my head are the Priory Commanders, where you have to declare like Blessed for your entire warband, and the Theist Priest, who you have to declare if you want to use Spirit Shrines and give, like, you know, everyone with devout's going to get the spells cast on this Theist Priest Warlord Regiment. So with that, they're pretty good. A lot of the supremacies are not, I want to say, like, super flashy. They're very just consistent, what I really like about 100k. Like, you're always going to get work out of them. Especially if you build into them. Some of them have been doing better than others lately. I would say the Noble Lord and his Best of Men, due to the size increase going from 6 to 8, has really helped that supremacy out. Imperial Officer kind of got kicked in the nuts a bit, because now his supremacy is no longer all infantry regiments, it's now just 2 infantry regiments. Still really good though, especially playing in combined arms. But it also, like, you really only need 2 things shooting up the table, and it's not just like the entire list of Merc crossbows are up the table. What else is another good supremacy? I do like the chapter mages giving interference on everybody and allowing you to cast self spells out. Works really well with the Water School for healing. And then Theist Priest I still don't like. that one is just like, it's too much work. You're spending way too many points to get devout on everybody, and then it's like there's too much time happening and you lose so much tempo trying to get it off for your big, like, turn. It just doesn't really work out, and your opponent has plenty of time to just, like, back up, kill your stuff. If they're even rooting for it, like, you declare your supremacy, your opponent gets the first activation and they have a bead on your Theist Priest warband with the Warlord from, like, a ranged unit, and they just get shot off the table. Like, great. So there's a bunch of things that can go wrong with it, is why I don't really like it. Priory Commanders one is super good. The Warband for the Priory Commander is super good. So him having Blessed to everybody, and if you already have Blessed, Ashen Dawn, you get +1 attack or harden. Like, you're just printing money at that point. So yeah, it's... Dynastic Alliance is a fantastic army rule that just 100k gets. A variety of these different lists are going to be either Veterans or Relentless Drills. I'll point them out at the top if I remember. So let's get into our first list, and it's Horse Lord. So this is a very similar list that I ran at Adepticon. I had to adjust it because Ashen Dawn have got a point increase. So I believe their base cost is up by 10. Where is it? You are 250. And your additional stands are now 90 points instead of 80. So they went up by 10 points for their base cost and for their additional stands. Bumped me out of basically 1 stand. So with that change, Mount Squires, I ended up staying the same. I played around with it a little bit, and I was like, well, I want to keep with the concept of all horses. So I decided I'll just drop a stand of Ashen Dawn. Not the end of the world. Give them banners. Sweet. Sealed Temples don't get banners. You don't need them. So yeah, it's fine for what it's doing. It's very much a skew list. You're very quick. You're very fast. Ashen Dawn Anvil really well. You can just take hits on the chin. Order Sealed Temple are very maneuverable. Get into people's flanks, kill stuff. House of Knights can just sit on zones, get in the way as an anvil. They're really nice. And Mounted Squires can shoot up the table, set that line of engagement. If people don't respect them, Clash 4 Mountain Squires will kill stuff will kill lights, will put a dent into mediums, and will do work and be annoying, and you don't want Mounted Squires tying up your ranged units. This guy has a Lorien Lance. It's, just got 10 points. I'm also throwing it on there. Sealed Temple, Prior Commander doesn't have anything. So, would I say this is a good list? Yeah, I played it, got 8th at Adepticon. It's good. I like it. I have tons of battle reports. You can watch Adepticon where I go over my rounds with it. The only change is really I lose one stand of Ashen Dawn, but gain banners. So, there's pluses and minuses. If I didn't care about the all-horse theme that much, I would have totally just dropped one of these guys, bump this up to 5, and just add in some more crossbows. Now I'm a little over. Take that out. Still a little over. Try to save points here, guys. Don't need that. So we're 10 points over. Oh yeah, we have banners. Get rid of that. Screw that. There we go. Get rid of the banners. Then I have 20 points. How much banners on Sealed Temple? 50. Yeah, so. Actually, I would just Court Palatine you. +1 Clash. There we go. Boom. I would just do that. That's my swap. If I wanted to keep 5 Ashen Dawn. That's really good. I like the list. Even this version of it, I would play it super easy. Like 1 Mountain Squire regiment running around being annoying. Merc Crossbow sitting back and providing shooting support. It's fine for what it's doing. Plays really well. Really goes into the theme of all horses, and you can do well with it. So let's go on to our next list. So we got Goblin 1. This is kind of based off of Hannah's Goblin list from about a year ago. I made a couple adjustments to it, just because of how the meta is shaping out. But we'll get to the core of the list. So the core is really like these 2 bands of mounted noble lords that are the exact same. One of them's the Warlord, and they both have Weapon Master. But it's, 2 units of Merc Crossbows for 4, 2 units of House of Knights for 4. You have a huge card activation compared to a lot of other players who are playing lists. Like, usually players play about a 10, I want to say like an 8 to 12 card deck, while this is playing 15. The Mounted Noble Lord's Warband in this style list is super good, just because you have 4 units of Merc Crossbows and 4 units of Household Knights right off the bat. That amount of shooting just kind of puts people on the back foot right away at the start of the game. Then you're coming out with a bunch of Household Knights, what people don't really want to deal with as well. Not because they're hard to kill, well, it's because they're annoying to kill, but not because they do a ton of damage. They're usually using them to anvil, keep people out of zones. You're very quick at speed 7 plus the banner. You're like running 15 inches up the table, and you're really getting in there and getting into people's way. What this list also does, by including the Imperial Officer as the Warlord, you're going to be vanguarding 2 regiments onto the table. He's going to be also taking 2 units of Merc Crossbows, so you have 6 in total. That's going to be really helpful. You set up basically this line, and you're like, come at me. I will just kill you if you come within 18 inches of me. What really threat projects and controls the table very well, while your House of Knights are getting into position to score and block people out. Then you have followed up 7 stands of Gilded Legion with a Standard Bearer. I didn't add a Drill Master. He gives +1 attack, but you can run this like 2 or 3 deep. You're throwing an Imperial Officer with them, so they get Bastion and double time anyway, so they're just shooting up the table and saying, this zone is mine, get out of here. So they're really good with that. And then you have an MSU of Steel Legion who are running around, killing anything that kind of comes in and fights your House of Knights, fights your Gilded Legion, and you're kind of pairing them up. So turn 3, both your Gilded Legion and Steel Legion are coming on the table. All your Merc Crossbows are going to be on the table turn 3, And by that point, hopefully the rest of the Household Knights trickle in. And if they are kind of falling behind, like turn 4, they're speed 7 with a banner. Like, you're going to be running 15 inches for 2 turns. You're going to get to the middle of the table pretty quick. Overall, it kind of just puts out this line of shooting where people are just going to be taking shots as they come into you. Hopefully they're weak enough where you get the rest of your list in there, like Steel Legion, Gilded Legion, the Household Knights, to just kind of pick them off at that point because they've taken enough chip damage from all the guns. Goblin lists tend to be more gun-focused because of how cheap 100k guns are. Like, 105 for Merc crossbows with their AP1 at range 18. Super good, and once they get in position, they can just take aim and volley over and over again. Like, shooting 10 shots out on 3s to hit, super good. You're going to just be hitting, probably 5 shots, but there's like 6 of them. So that's 30 hits on just a variety of different stuff you can do. Will all 30 of those hits be on the same thing? No. Terrain, other regiments get in the way. Like, this list wants to fight stuff that's kind of bigger than it, so that the Merc crossbows can just aim up and shoot, and also have stuff engaged. But because of how many cards you have and how well you can spread out, you'll probably get people into the flank and shoot at them, so it's really fun that way. I like Goblin lists. They're really fun to play just because at some point in the game, your opponent is just done drawing cards, and you have like 5 cards left, and you're like, alright, I'm just going to have fun now, and you start, like, now the Guild Legion are going, now the Steel Legion are going to go and hit your opponent. Now, like, all these things that have been waiting to out-activate your opponent are going to start going and doing work. And it's not a bad game plan at all. Also, Relentless Drills for the Gilded Legion, getting up to support 3 is really nice. Yeah. Then we got Goblin Wizard by Ben. So this is another form of Goblin. It's going down the magic route a bit more. We got 2 Chapter Mages with Men-at-Arms. They both have Standard Bearers. Both Chapter Mages are under School of Fire. None of them took Focused. So they're just going to be shooting out fire darts left and right. The Men-at-Arms allow them to score, which is really good, so they can sit in zones and just start popping out darts. It's good. Then we got a Theist Priest with Focused and Elysian Fragment. He's sitting in a unit of Militia with Standard Bearer and Servite. Servite makes him move 6 and resolve 3. That's good. In this list, your Theist Priest is going to kind of want to have him go, like, show up on turn 3. He wants to be as safe as possible because you want to hold that Elysian Fragment as long as possible, and you want to protect the Militia as long as possible. The next 2 warbands kind of swap it out a bit. So we have the Mountain Noble Lord with the Merc Crossbows and Household Knights, what I've already talked about. Still a really good warband. But then we swap out the 2 Merc Crossbows for Mounted Squires. So Mounted Squires at Clash 2, they're Speed 9. These ones are not veterans. They're going to be running up the table, and they're really looking to use opportunists to re-roll their attack rolls into people. We do have the 4 Household Knights to just anvil, pin, get in zone, score, so that's still really good. This list also has 5 lights, 1, 2, and 6 mediums. So it's all lights and mediums. So it's going to be on the table pretty much by turn 3. And has a ton of stuff. Militia you want to hold for as long as possible to turn 3. You kind of don't really want them on early. And if they do come on early, you just hold them back as far as possible. Because if there's some, like, massive brick that someone has, like, let's say Hold Thanes, or, like, a Ironclad Drake, I'm just using Dway because it's the easiest, or, maybe Old Dominion, like, let's say there's a big block of Bone Golems or Varangian Guard, you want the Militia to get blessed, you want the Militia to charge, you want the Militia to hit that target before they die. You really just need to keep the Militia safe, because they are going to be your damage dealer in this list. The rest of it is really just going to be running around, stalling out, scoring on scenario. Like, Goblin is very scenario focused, and you got to be looking at the scenario at every turn of how you're going to outscore your opponent. Nice thing about this list, it is 1, 2, 4, 6, 16 cards. That's a lot of cards. And it's still gun orientated. Like, you got 1, 2, you got 4 guns, 5 guns with the Thieves Priest. That's still pretty good, and a lot more maneuverability and speed out of the Mounted Squires. This one I do like. I'm not sure if it's going to hold up. I think there's some bad plays that can be done, and you lose the Militia early on because it's only 6 stands. Like, they'll just die. And then you just don't have any hitting power, and your opponent will just grind you out even if you're on the scenario early. So you got to watch out for that. Overall, though, I do like the list. Here we go. One of my new favorite lists, this was also developed by Ben, and it is the Heavy Hog. And this list has Imperial Officer, Armor Dominion, Brace for Impact on your feet. It's in Relentless Drills, by the way. 2 units of Merc Crossbows, we love them. We got an 8 block of Gilded Legion with Standard Bearer Drill Master, and a 7 block of Gilded Legion with Standard Bearer Drill Master. Then we get into the Noble Lord. He's running with Gale of the Empire, Weapon Master, and Graceful Combatant, so he's going up to 6 attacks with Cleave 1. We got Household Guard here with Arms Master, Standard Bearer, so Noble Lord's going to be with that unit. They're going to go from Clash 2 to 3 because of Arms Master and the Noble Lord. They're always going to be inspired from Regale of the Empire, and because the Noble Lord is the... Oh, what is it? Warlord? He's going to be making them reroll their 6s on their Clash. It is a fuck ton of attacks. I think I rolled like 30... Oh, I think it was like 35 or 36 or something attacks into like a Hoplite block and hit with 30 because of 4s with rerolls, and my opponent's Hoplite block, even at defense 4 from the front, just crumbled. Like, I wiped out the back stands and broke them, and then they just took Resolve and shattered, and it was like, oh boy. So yeah, it's still very good. This is a very strong regiment and combination. As well as that 8-inch bubble, touching other things, affecting other things. Super good defensively, super good offensively. Then he's running another Merc Crossbow and T-Units Hellsel Knights. Like, the MSU Hellsel Knights are so good. I'm just gonna keep saying it just to get through your head. So good, getting onto zones, holding zones, being in the way, being annoying. Defense through the shield for 4. A lot of things just kind of bounce off you, and people need to dedicate something like actually strong to get rid of you. So a little bit of cleave. You don't want to be flanked as a Household Knight, because then you're losing that shield. If they get you with cleave, then you're going down to defense 2, so you're really in a bad spot. Resolve 3 is not bad. Wound 4, that's pretty common, as I mentioned, on all of 100k. Like, Wound 4 is just your Wound 4, except your fate. 5 attacks is good, though, and Clash 2, not the best, but you really want to get that Inspire off to go to Clash 3, get some more hits in. I like MSU Hellsel Knights, they're good. But with this list, the only thing I would change was maybe swap one of these Drill Masters to a Seasoned Veteran to get Bastion. Them having both Drill Masters, though, is not bad, because they kind of both want double time, they kind of both want Bastion, so I put the Imperial Officer in the big regiment because I wanted him to stay alive longer, and having 4 more wounds does that. While the little regiment, you can kind of just take it and put it on a side of the table that has weaker stuff, and they'll just bully that side of the table. Because of Drill Master, they're going to like be double timing up the table, and getting into people. When they deploy Imperial Officer with Forward Force, he's going to be in 1 unit. You're going to get that auto on. So turn 3, both your Guild Legion are coming on the table, what's huge. And because they're going to be vanguarding up the table, they're going to be 16 inches both. And then if they need to keep going, you can double time another 16 inches. So you're going to be covering 32 inches of the table off the bat. What puts you in a really strong position of just like, here, fight my anvil or die. So yeah, I like both these bricks. You could go either or on the second Gilded Legion for Drill Master Seasoned Veterans. It depends on how your games shape up, how your meta is evolving. It's kind of a personal choice, and that's the only change I would actually ever make out of this. But as you can see here, like, there's shooting, there's infantry bricks, and there's cavalry. So we're combining the 3 aspects that I've already talked about before in these lists as we're going on, and they're just getting more and more aggressive because now they're combining all their strengths together and covering for each other's weaknesses. Like, the bricks do not want to be side charged. Household Knights get in the way of that. So when someone, when your Household Guard fight a Hoplite block and they're fighting, and your opponent's coming in with Minotaur Thyrans to hit your Household Guard, you can push Household Knights in the way because they're fast enough to catch up, and they're fast enough to get in the way and be durable enough. Well, against Cleave 3, they're not durable enough, but you get the idea. Maybe Household Guards are going to be hit by a block of Braves or something, and you're like, no, Household Knights will get in the way and just take those hits. Overall, this is a very solid list. The shooting forces your opponent to come towards you, controls the table. It's very good. And let's get into our next one. This is some bullshit by Huckleberry Smash. This is actually a change on his Adepticon list. So after Adepticon, Ashen Dawn went up in points. As I've already mentioned, the Water Mage lost the ability to heal cavalry. So the sins of Ashen Dawn have now no longer allowed Water Mages to heal horses. I guess water only heals people and not the actual horse itself. Who knows? But with his list, he's running a Prior Commander Warlord, 2 units of Seal Temple, and 2 4 blocks of Ashen Dawn. Then we get into a Theist Priest who just has Focused, an MSU Militia Bowman, and then we get another Sealed Temple with 3 and then 4. So what is this list doing? Basically, the Theist Priest is going to deploy. He's going to sit on the back of the table. Your opponent's going to run at him. Then the Order of Sealed Temple are going to deploy to cover him. And then the Ashen Dawn are going to deploy to basically get in front of everybody and be the wall of horse. The Theist Priest at that point is going to be casting... Where are you? Is it Saint's Favor? Saint's Favor! +1 to either its defense or evasion. If you can't heal the Ashen Dawn, making the defense 5 is really mean. Or if someone's going to be hitting Ashen Dawn with Smite, giving them evasion 1 is also really good, because you can bless that. So that's kind of what the whole point is there. If you declare your Supremacy term and put +1 defense on an Ashen Dawn and they're hardened 1, like, I would love to see someone cry a little when Ashen Dawn are defense 5, ignoring cleave 1, and re-rolling all their 6s from blessed. Like, that's real mean. I like this list. I don't think maybe I'll play it at some point, but it's just fun. Like, it really exemplifies or like pushes Ashen Dawn to their absolute limit for design and list building. Really focuses in on them, really just shoves them forward. It's just really mean. And it just shows like, hey, you add a little bit of magic into like, it's very much a skew list, like, into these horses. So yeah, this is just mean. It's kind of it. I don't know what else to say about this one. But I think Huckleberry is a fantastic player who designs really good lists, and this is something that you can really screw with opponents with. I would for sure take this to tournaments to play. It's very good. Play it, have some fun. Alright, here's the next Ashen Dawn list by Ben. We got Prior Commander Sealed Temple, 2 units of Order of Sealed Temple, and 2 Ashen Dawn 5 bricks. And then we got Imperial Officer. Oh, you know what? You can give him that. There's a Scoot and Shoot. 2 units of Merc Crossbows, and then 2 Theist Priests with Bowman. So this is an evolution of Huckleberry's list from Adepticon, and it cuts the second warband, bumps up the Ashen Dawn to 5, and then runs 2 Theist Priests behind, casting +1 defense for both regiments. Order Sealed Temple can score fine. Ashen Dawn can get into fights and score, especially if they're on zones. So this is all your scoring regiments. This is probably good enough. And then you have an Imperial Officer with 2 units of Merc Crossbows who are just shooting, providing support. Keeping the Theist Priest and Militia Bowman safe so that you can get that +1 defense off. Like, once the Ashen Dawn start getting into grinds, Theist Priest just activating +1 defense in the Ashen Dawn, and then like Ashen Dawn going and beating people to death is fine. You can also, if Ashen Dawn clears something and there's no other targets, you can like Theist Priest shoot out holy fires onto people. People love that. Like, there's a lot you can do. So yeah, you can also put Blessed on Order of Sealed Temple, what's kind of funny. Oh, target infantry. Never mind, you can't do that. They actually put infantry in there. Well, they did. So you can't put Blessed on the Order of Sealed Temple, but still they're really good. I like this one, just having the 2 Theist Priests chase around the Order of Ashen Dawn. I don't know how it'll play if you lose enough tempo or anything, but Order of Ashen Dawn are usually good enough that they can just take a hit, and if you get the activation before your opponent goes, you can get that +1 defense. It's really good on the approach, what's really nice. Especially when people are shooting at you or before you engage and you're kind of waiting out your opponent. You also have some a decent card advantage. Like, there's 4, 8, 10, 11. So you're not further behind a normal like elite style lists that tend to run less regiments and less cards. Like I think the Horse Lord list runs 10 cards in total, while at this one you are 2, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's helping you there. You're still running 8 regiments, but you just got enough characters that you can just kind of dead draw characters or do stuff. Lastly, we have Ben Combined Arms. So I know Ben has played this list on his channel, Competent Conquest. This one I also like, and I kind of talked to him about it and kind of listened to what he said about it in that battle report. This one uses shooting to control and zone people out. And that's kind of what you should be using your shooting for, and also getting free damage in. What are 2 nice things? So we got Noble Lord, Regalia, Empire, Weapon Master, Grateful Combatant, 6 attacks with Cleave 1, super good. Household Guard, 8 Stand, Standard Bearer, Arms Master, super good. This is a really good combination, and he's the best of men. Then we picked the restricted slot for the longbows, range 24, barrage 3, 5 stands. They're volley 2. At 5 stands, you kind of get enough shots that you can take aim and shoot over people or around things, or use your arcing fire. I already said over people or at people to do a ton of damage. And at your range 24, you can sit really far, nice and back, and set up kind of zones of, hey, come and get me. Like, you have to come here, or I'm just gonna unload AP 1 shots into you until you die, and there's nothing you can do about it. Having the longest shooting regimen in the game is really nice, just because you can force those things. They have the same output as Merc crossbows, though. So, however, because of their longer range, adding additional stands isn't bad, because their footprint is closer to your deployment. So people can either hop over your stuff, like your existing regiments could just march over your stuff. You're not as crunched on the line of engagement, because once you start playing the game, your board, the 6 feet of board you have, that front line where you're going to be meeting your opponent, that's premium real estate, and having something that shoots further away and can stay further back is very good, because it doesn't take up that premium real estate of where you have to put regiments that need to be up there to deal work. So Household Guard, Gilded Legion, and Order of Ashen Dawn and Crimson Towers. You can stay nice and back and just unload into people and not take up that premium real estate. Imperial Officer, he's going to be in a unit of Gilded Legion. This guy's coming on turn 3, fine, same as the Ashen Dawn. I believe the Crimson Tower guy is sitting in the Ashen Dawn. 2 units of Merc crossbows, fine. Helps with the support. You got 3 lights on, 1 medium, and then turn 3 you're bringing on 2 out of your 3 heavies. You're in a really good spot right off the bat. Then we get into the next warband. I don't know if you make this guy a warlord. Who would I make a warlord? I'd probably make you a warlord. Because, yeah, I want Household Guard to be zooming up the table. I want Guild Legion to be zooming up the table. You don't really need Blessed Hard-Won on these Ashen Dawn. Your opponent has enough bullshit to deal with. And this one uses Crimson Towers. So, Crimson Towers pairs really well with Ashen Dawn. Crimson Towers do not want to take a hit. They want to do charge and clashes. They want to get all their stuff off, like Wedge and Terrifying 1 and all their impact attacks and their Brilliant Impact 2. Ashen Dawn really helped them do that. So when something's fighting the Ashen Dawn, they're going to be stuck there for 2 or 3 turns. Really allows you to get your Crimson Towers in a nice position and spot so that they can side charge your opponent and rip through them, getting the side, maybe ignoring shields if they have one, providing Terrifying 1, making them reroll that resolve on Terrifying 1. It's just super mean and super good. And this list combines infantry, shooting, and horses. So this is the Holy Trinity right here. Ben did it. He Holy Trinity'd. And yeah. So there's a lot you can do with 100k, and this is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lists I went through. There's a lot. That's one of the big things I enjoy about 100k is just the absolute craziness of list diversity and things that are actually viable in Conquest with 100k. You don't feel locked in with Tempered Sorcerer from Dwagholm. Like, you don't feel locked in like that. In Old Dominion, you don't feel like you have to pick a Fallen Divinity or not pick a Fallen Divinity, like, for your list choices. Like, 100k is so adaptable and so fluid in its list building that you can really do a lot with it. And there's tons of designs and tons of styles of lists you can play. What I really love about 100k. And these are just, like, some really good ones. Have I played all these? In various forms. There's a bit of me what would really love to show the gunline list, but it's invalid nowadays. Like, you can't run it. What is just complete gunline because lights can't score. However, if they ever make any of the range shooting regiments score, I might come back to that list and be like, haha, guns! Because it is funny. So yeah. Weaknesses in 100k, all your power in the faction is actually in this step of the game that we just went through. Like, if you build a list and it doesn't cover your as the regiments kind of combined, it doesn't cover that. How do I say that? If your list has glaring holes and weaknesses and you don't have things in your list that cover those glaring holes and weaknesses, you're going to have a bad time. You could build a list to cover anything that any opponent's going to shove at you or throw at you. What I find really nice about 100k, it's just like there is still bad list building that people can do and have done. Like, I see on the Discord people are like, hey, I really like Men-at-Arms. I'm gonna run a brick of 6 Men-at-Arms. Like, don't. You only need 3. They're just gonna sit in a zone. Having 6 Men-at-Arms as an anvil is not worth it. Like, go get Gilded Legion if you want to do that. Go get Ashen Dawn if you want to do that kind of thing. Like, there's better choices and options. Go get House of Guard. House of Guard will anvil at that level better, especially with the Noble Lord. So yeah, I kind of find like there's better things going on. Like, poor list building hurts 100k. So, like, if you're ever like, I don't know what to pick for list building, like, I don't know, just steal one of these. To be honest, just steal one of these and play them. There's probably a battle report or something close to it on the channel or on Ben's Competent Conquest channel. His link will be in the description below if anyone wants to check that out. But yeah. So those are kind of something. 100k on the table plays very, very the same. Like, once you get all these regiments, once you bring them onto the table, it's like you're just going through the motions of the game itself. Your movement and positioning are going to matter a ton. You don't have a ton of tricks. Like, if you notice, there was very few upgrades on a lot of things. Like, I think the guy who got the most upgrades is probably the Noble Lord, and even then he took one upgrade he actually had to pay for. The weapon arts are free. Imperial Officer, battlefield drills are free. Like, Armored Dominion on this guy is super good. Is this the Heavy Hog list? Yeah, this is the Heavy Hog list. Like, he took Armored Dominion in the Heavy Hog list. Forgive the Empire, like, they're very good, so you kind of just take the upgrades that are very good that benefit and fit the list. I didn't make a list that was, what was it? Shows off veteran household knights. Let's talk about Death Stars. Okay, Death Stars. This is, I think, the best Death Star that you got. We're gonna give more crossbows. I'll take 2 crossbows. I didn't do this. I made all these lists in advance so that I didn't have to like sit here and be like, here, look, I'm making a list. So, we're gonna have veterans. So I just called Death Star. We're in veterans. Olaphane's for War, Weapon Master, Warlord, Mounted Noble Lord, 2 units more crossbows, Household Knights. I'm just gonna go with 5. We're gonna veterans them. You get your free banner. You get Attorney Champion, and then there you go. So that's it. Your March 7, Clash 3. Yeah. Sorry, March 7, Class 3. Your impacts are 3, but you're going to get +1 from the Supremacy ability. Olaphane's War is going to give you a +1. So you're going to be at Clash 4 with 4 impacts, rerolling 6s. Terrifying 1, Brutal Impact 1. Do a ton of work. After that, if the thing's still alive, you're going to clash at Wedge on your, like, 5 attacks from the front. for each guy. You usually run this like a 3x3. To pair up with this, I would actually take probably an Imperial Officer, make him a Warlord, grab these two, slap on Armor Dominion, and then I would probably grab 2 more units of Merc Crossbow. Yeah, can't go wrong with Merc Crossbow, guys. I'd probably just go into making this like 2 big bricks. So he's got 2 of those. I'd grab an MSU of House of Knights to run around and just score stuff in the back. So far that's good. I don't think this list is very good because it doesn't have very good balance and optimization. I don't think it's bad, but this is kind of like this is like what you press for your House of Knight Death Star. These 2 units of Gilded Legion are fine to just brick up and deal with people. You're not veterans. You're not veterans. Why did it make them veterans? But the problem with this is that because you have veterans on your House of Knights, you can't get Relentless Drills on these guys, what really sucks. So you're kind of just like, maybe I shouldn't do that. And instead you want to go into something that can not use veterans, but also isn't going to say no if you did take veterans. So double that. And then you just go 1, 2, 1, 2. So you've just rebuilt the Horse Lord list. Great. Nope, wrong button. It's 15 points. You're a Warlord. Yeah, about that. Like, You could drop the Merc Crossbows down to... what is it here? Militia Bowman, save some points. But yeah, like, you can already see like it's a little tough to kind of fit it in. Yeah, I would build this around your stuff. Like, this is just an absolute Death Star. The problem with it is not durable. If someone sees this coming at you, they'll put something in the way that you'll just have to take, and then they will just follow up with something that can kill it. Like, Defense 3 with a shield, if they bait you and you charge across the table and kill something and you're out of position, come up and hit you from the side. Like, Avatar will rip through Household Knights. Like, you'll kill 1 unit of Avatar, but a second MSU will just come up from the side and kill you. Or at least neuter you enough that there's like 3 stands left and you're in the flank, so you're just going to die the next turn. Do I like Death Stars? Yeah, because you just kind of tell people to pick up their regiments. Do I dislike Death Stars? Yeah, because there's such a huge commitment of points that it's really not worth it. Like, this is 445? No, 455. So it's like a 30-year list. There we go. Another one. Let me just do that. Let me just go Crimson Tower. Actually, grab Sealed Temple. We do it this way. We grab Crimson Tower and Ashen Dawn, and we make this guy 2. You don't need Tip of the Lance. You need Oliphane's Roar, but then you can't split Oliphane's Roar between the 2 Household Knights. So it just gets into a really bad spot. You're only really building 1 Death Star. You're not doubling up on Death Stars. So yeah, I like them. They're fun, but also they're kind of tough to put into a list and build cohesively so that you can work it well and not just be doing like what's called a sweeper. So this is like a terminology from Pokemon where you have a sweeper and a pivot. A sweeper is something that says, hey, I'm going to basically take 90% of my matchups, but if I ever encounter that like 10%, I'm going to immediately die. A pivot will say, hey, I am more generalist, more jack of all trades, I can handle more matchups, but it's going to be a harder fight for sure. Death Stars kind of build into sweepers, where you're just like, if your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with it, or doesn't know how to deal with it, you're going to win. However, if they do know how to deal with it and can deal with it, you're kind of going to just lose. There's times where people come out better. The Combined Arm list is more of a pivot. You got a lot going on here. Like, you got 3 bricks, followed up by a hammer at the Crimson Towers. You have 3 range units that are forcing people to fight you. And Guild Legion and Household Guard will punch up and kill stuff. Really good. The Ashen Dawn list is just being mean with Ashen Dawn and Theist Priest. Like, there's stuff going on there. So yeah, I guess that's one I missed. Good thing I caught it and thought about it. So yeah, there's a lot going on with 100k, and it's very good. You do want to pair yourself up very well with the regiments you have available to you. Overall, I would say like 100k is one of those top end factions. It kind of sits nicely in the top 3. It has a couple problems. I don't like, it's more like internal balance wise. I don't know if I'm going to make that another video, or maybe I'll just talk about it now. Fuck it. Get this guide done. I was going to make another video where I was going to do all my hot takes, but like could I do hot takes now? Oh, why not? For hot takes, Ashen Dawn really limit the internal balancing of the faction. Because they are a brawler-esque regiment where they want to get into fights and just stay there and beat people to death. They anvil and do hammering, so that puts them in a spot where they just do both, and they're the best of both worlds. There's nothing in 100k that does better hammering than Order of Ashen Dawn. Like yeah, probably Steel Legion can output more, but like Order of Ashen Dawn are fine. Like, it's not such a huge dichotomy between the two's level of hammering that you could pick one for the other. But then also Ashen Dawn is anviling better than Steel Legion, so you're getting both in one regiment, and it really just kind of fucks up the rest of 100k. Then we get into I guess like the shooting of 100k. Like, the 100k shooting is so similar to each other. It's literally just the same, but with different ranges and point costs to be relative to that range. Like, I want longbows to be better. Them having the same output but range 24 compared to Merc crossbows for a restricted slot and what are you base? 135 points, so 30 more points, just isn't worth it. Like, they're restricted to the Noble Lord. The Noble Lord's other restricted option is the Hustle Knights. The Hustle Knights are just kind of better for output and anviling and pinning and being speed bumps and scoring objective zones. Like, they just do more roles than the longbows do. Like, the longbows control and plink away at stuff. Like, hey, if you're going to enter within 24, you're going to get shot. Hey, if you're trying to hide from me, you're going to get shot. Hey, now that you're engaged with one of my anvils, you're going to get shot. Like, they do a good enough job doing that, except you can just get away with the same thing as a mainstay slot of Merc crossbows, because they're the exact same stat line for shooting. Barrage 3, Armor Pierce 1, Volley 2, except there's a 6-inch difference. And there's times where it's like, that doesn't really matter. You could just move up, be in position of the 18, your opponent comes into you, oh look, the Merc crossbows are within 18, shoot them. Longbows do have the bonus of not taking up board space further on that line of engagement, like that premium board space I was talking about earlier. But they're just kind of not worth it as a restricted slot, and I rather see them be worth it. Like, they need a bit of a change. Them, if they like went to Volley 3, I think they would be fine. They paid for their crimes against humanity back in 1.51 and 1.5. I think it's time where they can go back, like, if they, or, you know, increase their barrage from like 3 to 4 or something like that. Like, or make them medium or whatever. Like, they need a change up, because it's just the Merc crossbow is the most effective thing for its point cost compared to everything else. Oh, another thing that I totally forgot about. 100k is cheap as fuck. Like, you're not getting a ton of special rules, you're not doing a ton of crazy shit, but you're so cheap. Like, one of the most effective regiments in 100k that gets seen in a ton of lists is the Mercenary Crossbows. They're 105 points. This is first list. They show up, you know, I say they show up in Horse Lord, but if you want to go full horses, they don't. Goblins, they show up like 6 times in Goblin. Wizard Goblins, they show up twice. Heavy Hog, they show up 3 times. They don't show up in some bullshit by Huckleberry Smash, although if this is the Water Mage, they would. The Ashen Dawn list, you know, is more Merc crossbows. Combined Arms, there's Merc Crossbows. Death Star, there's Merc Militia Bowmen, but, Merc Crossbows. Like, there's such an effective regiment for 105 points that it's just, you're getting so much out of them. Like, all the other range options has to compete with Merc Crossbows. Do I like them? Yes. Are they great? Yes. Do they need a nerf? I'm not sure. I rather see the other regiments be better. I rather see Imperial Ranger Corps. We're just gonna fuck around. I should just make a new one of these. Yeah, whatever. Fuck it. I rather see Imperial Ranger Corps go into an anti-shooting role. So they have fluid formation for their maneuverability, their volley 3, their barrage 3, range 16. Give them loose formation so they have a more anti-shooting role to show that, hey, they're running around in trees, they're being super annoying. You're not going to pin them down. You take Imperial Ranger Corps for the higher volley base stat, and that counter-shooting isn't going to work as well into them. Sweet. Militia Bowmen are fine as is. They are trash, and they deserve to be trash. Like, Volley 1, Barrage 3, Range 16, you're never veteraning these things, you're just taking more crossbows. I think it was, there's 75 points, Stand Bearer for 5 gets you to 80, and then Enter the Order Shield. So you could be 5 less points for Volley 2 at Barrage 3 and 2 inches less and no AP. Pay the 5 extra points, go to Range 18, AP 1, and Volley 2. Like, it's... Militia Bowmen are fine for being speed bumps and pinners and just, being a Theus Priest babysitter. Like, they're fine with that. Who else is on here? Oh, Hunter Cadre. Oh my god, Hunter Cadre. So, the problem with Hunter Cadre is that they are too expensive. They want to fit this dual role of being melee regiment and a shooting regiment. You could veterans them to solve their shooting problem, getting up to Volley 3, but they have the same output as Merc Crossbows, except if you veterans them to Volley 3, they now shoot more, and then especially if you're targeting something with Fiend Hunter, you're just going to get a ton of hits, you're going to do a ton of damage, you're going to have a great time. Them being Clash 3, it's really good if someone finally engages them to just make them stop shooting. I wouldn't really view these guys as a melee unit, because you just have better options earlier on. They're just too expensive to be a melee unit that just kind of dies. Even with Evasion 2, they're good against shooting with that Evasion 2, because if someone's trying to AP them down, or shoot some magic at them or something, their biggest problem is that they are paying points for having both roles, but when you actually play the game, you kind of commit them to one or the other role. This is going to be a shooting regiment that's going to melee if something gets close, or if someone tries to engage with them, or they're going to be a melee unit that is going to pop a shot off after it's done killing something. That's kind of their big issue, is they're too expensive. They're too expensive for the additional stands, they're too expensive for their base cost. The Null Mage could also go down to 10 points. You don't need to be 15. So that's the kind of the problem with shooting. It all hinges off the back of the Merc Crossbow, the cheapest, most effective thing, and all the rest of it suffer because of that. For the infantry, I don't know. I won't say anything about Order. Well, I'll actually say something about Order of St. Latches. Order of the Sword is kind of fine. Counterattack, I don't really value that much. If you roll a 1 defensively, your opponent takes a hit and then has to roll defense, and they could just make it, and if they fail it, they take a resolve. So it's a bit of damage back, but it's not that great. I get why they don't have lethal demise, but I feel like this could be better. Order of the Sword, I feel it has a good base stat line. Clash 4 for attacks, I don't know, maybe bump that to 5. Wound 5s is good. Their base stats are good. I just feel like counterattack can go and they just get other special rules that are just better. Which is a banner on you, 5 points, thank goodness. Order of St. Lazarus, because you're a restricted slot for both, or for all the orders, and because you have to compete with Ashen Dawn, you are in a really bad spot. Sealed Temple and Order of the Sword being mediums also kind of kicks you out. Their big contender is Order of the Ashen Dawn, and because Order of the Ashen Dawn do everything, I don't think Order of St. Lazarus will ever be played. even with their defensive stat, like, not their defensive, their defensive stats aren't bad at all, actually. Like, Clash 2, or not, yeah, Clash 2, 6 attacks, Resolve 5 defense 2, 5 wounds. Like, it's not bad or anything, but it's just, it's not worth it. It's not worth it as a restricted slot. I don't see these guys ever being kind of worth it. You either got to make them dead cheap. Like, I think that was their idea with their additional stand cost. Except they don't have built-in support, so it's kind of like, yeah, you're gonna do relentless drills with them to get support too, but, you know, if you want to go that route, you have the Hedgehog, like, you have Household Guard, you have Gilded Legion, you have Militia, like, you can go elsewhere for this and do better. That's kind of the issue. Like, they're competing with Ashen Dawn, so they're never gonna win that fight, and they're not in a good spot as a medium. Well, I don't know what the fix is. I maybe move around their special rules to some other stuff, like Cleave 1 Fearless. They're supposed to be Leopards, so I get why they're Fearless. Cleave 1, you're welcome to 100k, you're Cleave 1. You're supposed to be Leopards, so yeah, Clash 2. Like, I don't know. They're just Resolve 5. Yeah, you're a Leopard, you're gonna die. It's just, their big problem is that they compete with Order of Ashen Dawn. If they were a mainstay, I could see something, like, if they're just a mainstay for every Pirate Commander, then I could see them going into more stuff. Maybe that's it. Maybe they just go to mainstay, and Order of Ashen Dawn are the only restricted in the Pirate Commander or band. Thieves Priest problem, his Spirit Shrines kind of sucks. Like, it is kind of a crappy Supremacy. You really need to, how do I say this? Like, it loses so much tempo, and you have to do so much work to get devout on other regiments, like Militia Bowman. Here we go. Another unit of Militia Bowman. You gotta take an officer. You gotta take a neophyte. There's 10 points. Get devout. And priest 1. Okay, cool. I want to run, to make my Hunter Cadre here in this list devout, I gotta go in down here. I gotta grab Mantle of St. Nick. Another 10 points. Cool. Men-at-Arms. Not you. Officer, neophyte, 15 points. Ooh. So you're spending a ton of points to put devout on a bunch of regiments. You're mostly putting it on also men-at-arms, but are kind of just not. They're not going to be able to take a hit very well. Like Defense 2 with the shield, Resolve 2, and Wounds 4. They're just asking to die, and then blessing them, and then getting Deadly Blades and Cleave 1. So they kind of go to Cleave, like with that, they're effectively like Cleave 2. So it's not that great. It's a lot of extra points. Like, these neophytes, Mantle of St. Nick, they all add up in points. They all reduce how many more stands you can get. Just to have one big pop-off turn that kind of could be negated if your opponent just sees it coming. And once my opponents caught on locally, after like the third game I did it, they all started just like, oh, this is your Supremacy turn? I'm like, yes. And they like looked at it and said, I activate this regiment over here, and I move back. And I'm like, okay, now I have to march charge you, wasting my Supremacy turn. He's like, yep. Like, cool. Like, that's totally what I want to do. So Thieves Priest, basically, new Supremacy ability. He just gives it out to the entire army for a turn. Like, everyone gets devout. Fuck it. Not just people with existing devout. The next problem with the Thieves Priest is his warband selection is just garbage. Like, Militia and Militia Bowmen are not safe enough to keep a Thieves Priest alive. They die very easily. Sakari are not out yet. They are in a better spot than those two because they are Evasion 2 and Resolve 4. So they're just going to be more survivable. Thieves Priest can bump that Evasion to Evasion 3. However, they're still not good enough. You kind of want the Thieves Priest to sit in a unit what's like Defense 3, Defense 4. Like, that's, you want to keep him safe. Like, look at the Tempered Sorcerer from Dwagholm. He has Fireforge to sit in if he wants to be on with a bunch of dudes. Their Defense 3 with a shield to 4, Resolve 3, 5 wounds. Like, that's a very good bunker. The Thieves Priest does not have a very good bunker. Then we get into the next warband. Chapter Mage. Similar problems to Thieves Priest. Like, Men-at-Arms, not the greatest bunker. It's a little better. They can score and sit in the back. Merc Crossbows, a little bit better. But basically it comes down to the Thieves Priest and the Chapter Mage both have to have their warbands develop more. So that's nothing like you can just be like, just do these things around. Stuff will hopefully come out in the next couple years that will evolve these warbands, because it's totally just warband selection. I know there's been talk of the Chapter Mage should just go into the Imperial Officer's warband, like the Mimic Assassin. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool, sure. Like, because then at least you get access to Gilded Legion, Steel Legion to sit in. Like, that's going to, like, Chapter Mage with a unit of Gilded Legion is going to be a perfect place to sit in and be safe for a lot of things. And then she could just self-heal and not have to be the Warlord. So there's a lot more going there. I know there's talks of people who are like, let's put the Chapter Mage on a horse and just take Mounted Squires. I'm like, that'd be really fun with a Chapter Mage, shooting off fire darts, running around on a horse. Or, like, being very maneuverable and casting water. Just kind of like being an ambulance at that point, just running back and forth, doing weir, and just like putting water on people. So there's things that can be done for the Chapter Mage, but right now it's kind of just like warband selection hurts her, but not as much as the Thieves Priest. Like the Thieves Priest is the best wizard 100k has, except he's a terrible warband. Chapter Mage's warband is acceptable. Like sitting in a unit of Merc crossbows is absolutely fine for a Chapter Mage to do work. Cast your spells, have the Merc crossbows shoot when you're in a good position. Like don't. When you're trying to get the Chapter Mage spells off, don't also try and have the unit of Merc crossbow she's in also be shooting. You want them to use their activation to get the Chapter Mage in position, to get her spells off. And if there's a prolonged fight, you get them in position, Chapter Mage gets their spells off, next turn, crossbow starts shooting, doing work. That's really it. Don't try and have your cake and eat it too with this one. You're just gonna get yourself out of position, be unable to cast spells, be in a really bad spot that your opponent can counterattack and just snipe out the Chapter Mage, because Merc crossbows are defense 1. Any sort of AP with a high enough volume will kill him. It's not fun. And you don't want to be using your Tears of Nuala there. What was the actual spell? Nuala, yes, yeah. It's Tears of Nuala. Look at that. You don't really want her using that spell on the Merc crossbows. You want to use it on like Gilded Legion, Steel Legion, Household Guard, and not the regiment she's in to keep them alive. It's just going to be a bad time. What else is bad in here? Veterans, because it costs points, it kind of sucks, because you want to use those points to fill out your regiments more. That's kind of the thing going on there. Like, Relentless Drills is better because it's just free. You just get a free bonus. Like, you're not going to use it all the time, but it's still a free bonus. While Veterans is kind of like, hey, do you want to double the point cost of an officer, what's already 20 points to 40 points, or 25 points to 50 points? Like, you get +1 clash. It's like, wow, those 50 points could have been another stand. So that's kind of why let's kind of build towards the support and the Hedgehog-esque ways, like in this combined arm list. Where's Heavy Hog? Into Heavy Hog, like they all kind of do that. So yeah, that's also Veterans kind of reduces officer upgrades for a lot of regiments. 100k has a lot of officers, being one of the first factions, and Parabellum really want to push officers at one point. I don't know if that's something they still do per se, but like Men at Arms has 2 officers. I think Militia have 3. Yeah, they have 3. Like, Gilded Legion have 2. So, Veterans reduces officers for interesting upgrades on existing regiments, because then once you get an officer, you can now Veterans that regiment. So, if Merc Crossbows, let's say, got... Where are you guys? Here we go. Well, Banner, 5 points. Sweet. They get an officer, let's say, maybe 10 points. So, for 20 points, the officer might even say, hey, you just get fire in advance. So then you go from volley 2 to 3 for 20 points. So now you're 130 points for volley 3 at AP1. That's way better. That's really good. Like 100 Cadre 160, and they have to do 30 points. Standard Bearer. What's Veterans, these guys? They got to go to 195 to get to volley 3. Like, that becomes the problem. Like, Merc Crossbows can never get an officer, even if it's something cool that could, like, hey, we want to give Merc Crossbows ability, but we also like their base cost, but if we put it on an officer, now we kind of like, oh, now they're going to be volley 3, take aiming to 4. The officer upgrade, give them fire in advance, could give them murderous volley, so if they're shooting within 12. Like, fuck yeah, even if, like, I don't, like, murderous volley on the Imperial officer isn't the greatest because it's within 12. Like, that's the massive restriction. Like, if this was just the range of the regiment itself, like, you have to take aim, shoot, you trigger murderous volley, and it's at the full range, sweet. I'd be really happy with it. But even if it said 12 for, like, 10 points, 15 points, so is it 15, 30, so it'd be 140. Like, yeah, Merc Crossbow's still cheap, doing a ton of work. Volley 3 really helping out their low barrage stat. Like, that's the problem with veterans. Like, it actually hurts what you can do with certain regiments in 100k. On top, and for its point cost, like, sometimes it's just not worth it. It's just, what is it? Relentless Jules kind of just outdoes it. What else is there? Who else haven't I talked about? Noble Lord, what do you got? I'm talking about Militia, Men-at-Arms, also Guard are fine. You want to run them as a big brick. I wouldn't never run these guys as MSU. Mounted Squires are fine. You can unveterans them, you can veterans them. It doesn't really matter. Household Knights are kind of fine. Household Knights, I would kind of want, like, my problem with Household Knights is that their lore doesn't really match their what their current stat line is. Like, the restricted slot for 140 points, and they're supposed to be these elite knights that the Mounted Noble Lord runs around with, and he's having a great time with them. And they're just Clash 2, and it just really sucks being Clash 2 on, like, elite knights. Like, your elite knights are your orders. They do so much more, even for, like, the 50-point hike increase, but, like, even if you went Tourney Champion, Vets, Standard Bearer, getting up to 190, it kind of isn't worth it. Sealed Temple. Yeah, like, there's the resolve difference. These guys are faster with fluid formation, already have the impact attacks. Like, there's the same point cost at that point. But I wouldn't really, like, be going for it. Like, why do all this extra work when you can just take Order of Sealed Temple and get Ashen Dawn? Like, House of Knights don't tie into something else. Tournament Champion's super good, but also super expensive. Especially with veterans for that extra 50 points. Like, it really sucks to be them. Jesus Christ. So yeah, it's that's kind of like my gripe with them, of them being Clash 2. However, if you're just looking at them as an MSU as a blocker for 140 and a restricted slot, they're, like, really good. I think Fenris Beast Pack are 140, and they're super good. Like, they fill kind of similar roles to, like, Fenner from Nords, and they're 140. Like, yeah, they're both super good for what they're doing at that point. If you're doing all that, veterans benefits more from, like, bigger units, because now your points are going further, because that 50 points does kind of suck. Yeah, that's it. I did talk about longbows, talked about that. Yeah, that's kind of it. Also, like, 100k doesn't do anything super special, so it kind of gets like, not doing anything special. You're just kind of just the Jack of all trades combined arms faction. Like, you have a tool for everything, you just got to bring it in your list. So yeah, that's really my hot takes for 100k. I think these have been echoed before. There's stuff, like, I would and wouldn't do. There's things I think are fine. I think, like, 100k is also almost done. If you want to rework 100k, you got to really change Ashen Dawn, because nothing in 100k can get done unless Ashen Dawn get looked at, because they're so good. Even now with their point cost, like, being an MSU for 250 and 90 points of percent, still really good, still a fantastic stat line. It just prevents development for the rest of the faction for things that might actually need it. Like, the shooting needs basically a rework. So each of the shooting regiments, well, not each, but, like, Imperial Ranger Corps, Longbows, and Hunter Cadre can see more of the light. And yeah, militia, not militia bowmen, just the militia themselves are They're fine for what they're doing. They're Elysian fragging, bombing people. Like, they're smite bombing people. Who cares? They're also dirt cheap. Like, I don't mind there's a dirt cheap thing for 2 of them. Yeah, there's a lot going for 100k, but there's also a lot. Not a lot. I would say there's things that need to get looked at again, and things that need to come down a bit so that other things can come up. Because, like, if you give the better shooting options, like, if you change the shooting to become better, more diversified, it isn't all the same, and you keep Ashen Dawn the way they are, you're going to be in a really mean spot. Guild Legion, Household Guard in a really good spot. Oh, you know who I forgot? Totally forgot about this guy. I used to love these guys. Well, I still love them. Steel Legion. These guys die. That's their big problem. They're not, as a heavy, they do great damage at 5 attacks, clash 3, cleave 2. Great damage. Resolve 3, defense 3 or 4 wounds is just kill me stats. Like, you put 1 point of cleave in here, it goes down defense 2, especially with the 4 wounds. Like, you're just bleeding stands too hard. Even with Oblivious, you're still taking, because of all the wounds you're going to be taking, and all the stands dying, Oblivious isn't going to keep you up. They need something to keep them alive a bit more, because that is their weakness, is that they're too much of a glass cannon. Like, anything with cleave 1 is going to cut them down. I don't know, either increasing their wounds, giving them some defensive ability, like the reroll 6s on defense, or harden, or I don't know, fucking something. It doesn't matter. That's kind of their issue there. Or bump their resolve up to 4. Like, it's super weird that they are resolve 3, while Gilded Legion are resolve 4. You see what I'm getting at? Like, why are Gilded Legion resolve 4? Like, that resolve 4 pushes Gilded Legion to this anvil roll. Steel Legion being a hammer on resolve 4, if they were resolve 4, it'd also be better. Bump up the wounds. Make Gilded Legion wound 5. Like, I don't mind, like, a lot of things are wound 4, but, like, wound 4 also is, like, susceptible to so much chip damage. And, like, some of these anvils, you're just like, man, I really wish I couldn't be, like, just killed by chip damage. It's some of the Crimson Towers before they added that, 5th wound. Oh man, I haven't even talked about Crimson Towers so much. God damn it! This is what happens when I decide to do a hot takes after I talk about list building. But yeah, this 5th wound really saves you from just chip damage. Steel Legion, Guild Legion could go for a 5th wound. Make the Steel Legion resolve 4 as well. And then you have your points difference here. Like, Guild Legion are fine. Like, if anything, I would say change is just make them wound 5. Steel Legion need a little bit more, like wound 5, resolve 4. Additional stand cost and base point cost is good for their difference in output. And that Gilded Legion want to stack up with additional stands, while Steel Legion want to basically just hit things with their front rank. So there's good there. Order Crimson Tower in a really kind of shit spot. So Parabellum doesn't want Shock Cav, except Crimson Tower are the Shock Cav. They're the greatest Shock Cav in the world from their lore, so it really sucks that they don't Shock Cav very well because of, like, movement 7's a big one. You're running 15 inches onto the table on turn 3. Most of the time you're running 15 inches onto the table turn 4. You need to get these guys working, setting up side charges. Like, one of their big problems is that they just get march charged because they have to be so far forward to guarantee that they can hit their target. A lot of people just, like, march charge something into them to prevent them from getting their charge off, because that prevents their brutal impact 2 with all their impact attacks, triggering wedge on their 5 attacks, so they immediately just, like, drop down in offensive output immensely if they're ever tied up. So either, like, increasing their march to 8 would be really good. Another one, what the hell is another one? Just giving them cleave 1 naturally would be good. Giving them shock, but, like, on the impacts. So, I don't know, a new rule where it's basically just shock for impact, so their clash, because that's the other problem. Like, an MSU of Order Crimson Towers will do some work, but at clash 3, rolling 12 impact attacks, like, you just end up missing a fuck ton. Like, there's times where I've rolled them all, and it's like, you've hit 4 times. I'm like, wow, you've hit 3 times. I'm like, wow, take your brutal impact 2s. Oh, my opponent saved 1. Oh, they take 2 damage. Oh, they take, like, 1 resolve or 2 resolve. Like, whatever, fuck me. Like, a lot of, like, maybe I killed a stand, maybe there's a stand with 1 wound left. Like, great. Clash 4 into them. Like, so, shock for impacts, you know, go to Clash 4 when they do impact attacks. Solves a lot of that. That's why Crimson Towers really on Olafing's Roar. Not for the terrifying one, but just for that. So if you want to just, like, increase damage, but not increase their movement, that's the way to do it. I think another one was talked about was Vanguard on these guys, so that they can shoot up the table once they come on, so they are... You can get them into a better position early on and actually be relevant with them faster. Would be nice. But yeah, they're currently their ability to output just hurts them. Like, for 200 points, it's kind of not worth it, because a lot of the time people just, like, do everything you need to do to horses. If you just march charge the horse and they can't use their impacts, they're dead in the water, they get killed. That's it. Like, the 5th wound is not there to make them survive engagements. It's there to make them survive chip damage on the way in from, like, shooting and magic. Because losing a stand before you get to charge really hurts with Crimson Towers. So yeah, there's that. Just making sure I went through all the warbands. Besides that, I think 100k is fine. Like, those are my hot takes. Those are my gripes. This is my list building. I don't know. I guess I'll call this the hot take list build episode, where I kind of was like, I'll just go on an impromptu rant about 100k. Yeah, I don't know. Shoot me up on Bonktable. It'll be in the description below if you want to join. Tell me what you think about 100k. I'm always curious what people go with, or what they would do to, like, fix some of these issues, or maybe there's issues that I haven't seen or didn't mention. Like, talked for almost an hour 15 at this point. Like, there's going to be some things I just forget. It's a lot of stuff is going on with the game. So you can, or if you're on YouTube and you're watching me, drop a comment below what you think some of the problems are with 100k. What maybe some of the things you like. Well, not some of the things, but, like, you know, tell me what you like about 100k. Like, but yeah, there's a Discord, there's YouTube. We also do a podcast. It should be on podcast format as well as on YouTube. And what else? Ben from Competent Conquest, took a bunch of lists from him because he builds a lot of good lists, and I end up playing them. His link for his YouTube channel will be in the description below. So if you want to check out some of his battle reports, he does a very good job of playing the game and then explaining the game in his battle reports of what's going on. One of his more recent ones, I think he was actually playing the Combined Arms list, Ben Combined Arms, this one, and he was talking about shooting and why shooting's good and why shooting's bad. Like, you want shooting in all your lists, but you don't want a ton of shooting, so you gotta find the right amount. And yeah, so thank you for joining me. Have a great day. Bye!